Now I want to shift gears a little bit, and this one's for Kathy and Stacey because they deal with this every day. So we've talked about VA, we've talked about Medicaid. The focus has been on the client. Setting up a great plan, a plan that's designed to win, designed to work. But now the distribution starts to the children. Now our focus shifts as well because it's not guaranteed that that plan will work. So we call this generational type planning. So why don't the two of you share with the group some of the things that can go wrong if we start transferring these assets?
Well, I mean, as you guys know, when we set up your plans, we put so much thought and time and energy, and you guys put so much love and care and thought into setting up these incredible plans so that your assets are preserved for your children, but also so that they go according to the way that you want your children, whether you want them to have everything all at once, whether you've got maybe a child that we set up a family century trust for some reason. Basically, that's the one where they don't have the checkbook. Or the asset divorce protection where they do have the checkbook. We've just created all of these components that we put in your trust to protect it. But what happens is, and what we're trying to avoid by doing multi-generational planning, is those distributions start to occur to your kids. Well, then we lose a lot of the control that we had. You know, your distribution goes to a son, and then he gets a divorce and gets remarried. Maybe his ex-wife doesn't get anything, but now he's gotten remarried and she has 2 kids. I mean, times have changed. We don't have near as many, 40, 50-year marriages with 2 kids and nothing happens. We put remarriage protection in your trust because what if one spouse dies and then the other one remarries later? I mean, we just have all these things set up. But we're starting to really see some issues, and the next generation down, and even the next generation down from them, is starting to worry us because we don't want to watch your perfect estate plan fall apart when it starts to get distributed. And there's ways around that. It just involves your children setting up their own estate plans, not just to include their inherited assets, but the assets that they have themselves. Kathy's got a couple of a story that we just watched this lady that, I mean, she and Kathy were very, very close, and they worked very hard on her plan, and I'll let Kathy finish it.
Well, her son was not in a position to serve as a trustee, so we were honored to step in that position and take care of her needs and her finances, and for the last couple of years, I think, of her life. So she went to great measures to plan everything just so. She only had one son. That son was not married, had no children. He was in bad health. She finally died, and then he was not in a position to make any plans for her funeral or anything, so we had to do all of that as well, I was honored to do that for her. And it came to distributing assets to him, the son, and I said, the house is going to be yours. We've got a little bit of money. It wasn't a large estate, but it was very well planned. She wanted to do it just a certain way. Well, everything went to him. We encouraged him to do his own planning because there weren't any heirs that he had, and he dies. So his estate had to go through probate. And even though he was not married and he had no children, we had 33 heirs pop up.
You become very friendly when you die.
If there's $100, somebody's going to be calling you to get it. And they weren't terribly nice about it, but where were they when the family needed them? Now all of a sudden there's a little bit of money, and so they're just calling and driving us nuts.
And guess who had to do the probate?
Yeah. So it didn't go according to her plan. I mean, she was well taken care of when she needed to be, by us. Her needs were met, but it fell apart.
I want to mention one case that we had in Grant County that brings this point home. We had a family that did perfect planning. They had a large estate, $2-3 million estate, one son. They left the money to the son. They thought they had it structured so that it would take care of him for the rest of his life because, I don't want to use the term ne'er-do-well, but he'd never had a job. Parents had always supported him. He kind of worked on the parents' farm and did his thing. He inherits the money. Less than 18 months later, I get a phone call from him. He says, I need some legal help. I'm broke. I can't afford to pay you anything. Can you help me out? In less than 18 months, his lifetime money was gone because they didn't take the next step of making sure that he couldn't blow it. And he took no action to protect himself. So it's so critical that you talk to your children and say, you know, do you want your family to go through an extended probate? And Tracy's going to talk about that. Do you want them to have to just reopen that wound every time you go back to court? Because that's what it amounts to. So, you know, we need the next generation to start stepping up to the plate and doing what you did 20 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever, when you came to us the first time.
Here's what I've noticed. I've come to believe that the primary distinction that's out there in the marketplace in terms of the quality of legal services provided for estate planning has to do with the quality of the questions the attorney asked you. If the questions aren't any good, the plan can't be any good. The reason that's becoming more and more important is because life's becoming so much more complicated. I mean, when we started this, most of our clients have been married 40 plus years, had 2.3 children, been married to the same person for all that time, and they wanted an outright distribution to the children in equal shares and let one of the children be the trustee and clean it all up at the end with our help, and it was done. But guess what? Things change. And now we're noticing that just because you name a child as the trustee can sometimes be the worst decision you make. And it can be a bad decision, particularly if all your children get along well, because it might be the catalyst for them not getting along well, because one was selected and the other one was not. See, so you never know which way the worm is going to turn on these cases. And whereas before we used to think, well, just give the kids the money and let them do with it what they want. The problem is that the children have some influence in that too. So for example, we have clients where you would think by looking at the family, an outright distribution to the children would be an easy decision. One's a doctor, one's a successful business person, no problems, long-term marriages, etc. But the doctor's son says, wait a minute, I don't want the money. I'm happy to receive my inheritance, but guess what? I get sued in my practice. And I don't want your assets exposed to my creditors. So I want my share held in trust. And I want it distributed out according to a formula we'll talk about. So you would think, wouldn't you, that that doctor would just take the distribution, be totally okay, but he chose otherwise. So it's the quality of the questions that you are asked that determine how comprehensive and how well and how effective your plan goes. So our practice has evolved and changed a lot, all the way from choice of trustees to how the distribution should be, and we have more options. We've created more options. We have much more lengthy conversations with people than we used to. So.
And it's really hard anymore to define what a normal family is, because there's all these outside sources that tend to affect a family that you just never heard of 25, 30 years ago. So it's become rather complicated.
I wanted to say one more thing. My parents, in my situation, personally, my sister and I are completely opposite, and but my dad specifically said, I'm not going to try to control things from the grave. And so you're talking about getting your kids in to set up their own estate plan. I mean, he doesn't want to try to control it, but he didn't want to leave it completely unprotected because, you know, one of us might be very likely to blow through the money or to have creditors coming after the money. So anyway, so he made sure that my sister had an estate plan set up before he finished his estate plan.
Interesting. Interesting. So that if something happened to him, her assets would go into a well-conceived plan.
Exactly.
Okay.
I mean, that's the plan.
Yeah.
I think he could have tried to control it a little more from his point, but, you know, he just didn't want to do that, so he did what he thought.
Well,
I mean, it still helps.
Sure.
Don't get, you know,
And I think the preponderance of our clients still prefer to not control from the grave. But let me tell you, you have to be a lot smarter today than you were 20 years ago because of all these other influences out there in the marketplace. How about this one? We've had clients say to us, our kids are just fine. They're not great, but we don't think they're going to have any Social Security income when they reach 65. Or if they get any, it's not going to be much. And whatever they get may not be worth much in terms of purchasing power. So we just want it held in trust. We want it turned into a retirement account and distributed in an annuity-like fashion to them for the balance of their lives at that time. So you have all kinds of things going on in the minds of people in terms of how they set up their plans.
But that's still your plan.
That's your plan.
That's still your plans. What Kathy and I are concerned and what we would like to see is for your plans to have a plan to funnel into. That
your
is
children's
the
plan.
ideal situation,
Yeah.
is that we have a plan after your plan. Not just
The
your
most
plan
bitter
B.
fights that I've seen in court is kids contesting the wills.
Exactly, and you can't contest a trust as no
And
contest clause.
there are just no friends left when the trial's over.
Yeah.
And it's as bitter as it can. And
The perfect situation is for your plan to funnel into a plan for your kids. That's your safest, most secure thing.
So the point we're making, I mean, we're looking at it all the way through from your plan to their plan.
Right.
But our recommendation is you have that conversation with them. You know, are you set up? Are you squared away? If something happens to me tomorrow, is this money you may be receiving safe? Or is it exposed?